Hi, welcome back. So in this video, we are going to talk about second order thinking. Now, before I get into that, I wanted to share a very interesting story that's actually related to second order thinking. So when COVID started in March 2020 and lockdown was issued during that time, we read a lot of news that how the economy is going to be like similar to Great Depression of 1929 and so on. And most importantly, that the market is going to crash. Well, S&P 500 did crash, but again, it moved up. We know that right now, right? Now, if you were like me thinking that the market was going to crash, that's first order thinking. That's very simple. That's very superficial. And everybody, most of us think like that. The second order thinking is if you could have predicted that the S&P 500, the bulk of it are most of the tech companies, and tech companies will flourish during that time. And we know now, right now, that companies like Amazon, Zoom, they flourish during the COVID times. That's second order thinking. Now you know the difference, right? Let me give you another example. Let's say a biotech company releases interim clinical trial results. Okay, and the result was average. Let's say the result is average, and you, by looking at it, conclude that the stock prices will fall when the clinical trial ends. That's first order thinking. Second order thinking would be look into the data, analyze deeply, and maybe you think some very different from the crowd, saying that the outcome of the clinical trial results would be less worse than it is expected, and hence the stock prices can move up. So that's second order thinking. I'll give you a last example, very practical one. Now we see that while having coffee in the morning, a lot of people order oats milk instead of cow's milk. Now this video is not a debate about vegan or you being a non-vegetarian and so on. The question is about first order thinking and second order thinking. Now the first order thinking says that the oats milk is very healthy. Now if you want second order thinking, you can look at the back of the packet and see the ingredients and think about it. Is it natural? Are there any chemicals used to produce oats milk? If yes, if we consistently consume oats milk every day, what will have the effect on our body? That's second order thinking. Now in my couple of videos also, I talked about thinking with like Thomas Erickson as well as Luis Pereira's. You can check out those videos where I argued that most of the biotech CEOs should spend time or have a right balance between meetings and spend time on thinking. Why? Because there are tons of risk. Developing a biotech company is not easy. And same happens if you are an investor. If you want to beat the market, you have to spend time on second order thinking, right? Understanding consequences of consequences of consequences, meaning second, third, and fourth order effects, right? Or even if you are an employee, right? When you get into second order thinking, you analyze deeply, you try to think different from the crowd, you get into feedback loops, for example, and take into account all this information to come out with a decision that might be very different than the crowd. As Ray Dalio also talks about it, consensus is built into the price. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Thank you.